Hey everyone. So I'm going to try to keep this short. I know I tend to go a little long, but this topic is going to cover how the Scopes trial fits into the modernist fundamentalist controversy in religious history. Okay, so Frank Lambert actually discusses how this came about in his chapter on faith and science in his book Religion and American Politics on page 104. All right, so industrialization and the Gilded Age brought about two competing ideas about church doctrine, and one of those was conservative evangelism pursued moral reform based upon the literal translation of the Bible. They wanted to enact it within government positions as well as big business as well. Now, IBID on page 105, Charles Darwin actually is going to raise some doubts among Protestants when he introduces the concept of evolution and other ideas such as natural selection. This does not necessarily mean the pure rejection of the Bible itself. Many Christians found that there could be affinity and acceptance of modernity, so things like science, okay, this new transformation of the United States through technology, okay. They did not focus on the literal translation of the Bible. IBID, page 105. Now, they're going to oppose each other in various events in the early 20th century. Now, one of these events is going to be the Scopes trial, and it came to challenge one of the central tenets of this controversy, which is the inerrancy of Scripture. The Bible cannot be wrong. But that's what this Scopes trial was about. It was not a political event, so more so a religious one, as noted by Frank Lambert, page 107. Now, Charles Darwin's theory was typically argued at the college level, but Tennessee is going to pass a law in the spring banning teaching of Darwinism in public schools. Okay, so how the earth was made. But the American Civil Liberties Union supported John Scopes to actually teach it, and he's going to be brought to trial, defended by Clarence Darrow, who is a known agnostic. Okay, this is noted by Frank Lambert on page 124. Now, what's interesting is Clarence Darrow is an agnostic, but he's actually going to be a honorary member of the Liberal Church of Denver. Okay, this is a modernist church. This is a church that supports modernist doctrine. They are not fundamentalists. All right. Now, Robert Small is going to write an article in the Evening Star called Church Admits Darrow on July 18th, 1925. And it states, early thoughts now dormant, they want to thank Clarence Darrow for bringing about the early thoughts now dormant in many minds that imbued the foundation of progress in the American conscience. Okay, again, it's that connection to the affinity and acceptance of what we consider modernity. All right. Now, the opposing lawyer, who will actually be there on behalf of the state of Tennessee, will be none other than William Jennings Bryan. William Jennings Bryan, this man here, he's going to run for president numerous times. He will never succeed in that endeavor, but he will argue on behalf of the fundamentalists, all right, many of the fundamentalist churches. So now, the trial itself was, again, more about biblical truth than it was about Tennessee's law that prevents someone from teaching evolution in schools. All right. Now, ultimately, as Frank Lambert notes on page 126, the result was John Scopes had to pay a fine of $100. Okay, so not a whole lot really came from that. But he says here, very importantly, on the same page, the fundamentalists won the verdict of the Dayton courthouse, but they lost the verdict in the court of public opinion. Okay, this is really significant, meaning public opinion is going to be more swayed now by modernists within the concept of Christianity and church doctrine. That doesn't mean that fundamentalists will cease to exist, but ultimately it will only divide these two thoughts and these ideas more, okay? And only will perpetuate this controversy between these two ideas. Now, I do want to note this very important point that Catherine Lofton mentions in Commonly Modern, Rethinking the Modernist Fundamentalist Controversies, written in Church History on page 141. She states that this is not an argument between iconoclasts and orthodox. It's not an argument between right and left. And it's not even an argument about what we consider fundamentalists today in the 21st century and modernists in today in the 21st century. We need to put this more into context. All right. So she states, modernists and fundamentalists may have split a lot of ink on what distinguished them from one another, but they did so within a narrow conceptual frame of common interest. Okay. So ultimately, depending upon what the church adapted to or what they didn't adapt to between the 19th and 20th centuries is how they are going to interpret the Bible. And they still had those foundational similarities between one another. Now, will this controversy continue on? Yes. But the Scopes trial was a very pertinent part of this controversy. And you cannot look past it without examining the Scopes trial and who supposedly won that trial. Thank you.